I am very excited for the Sheeran Looper X.
Freebie.
Hey, how's it going, everybody? Welcome to Freebeat. Today's patron shout-out goes to Garen M. Thank you so very much for the support. Really quick, let me just pop in here and say this was not the video I was planning on making this week. I do have a video fully scripted and ready to shoot, but unfortunately the weather here in Oregon got crazy cold, very, very wet, and filming outside just very quickly became not an option. So I was panicking trying to figure out what I was going to do for a video, and then I saw that Ed Sheeran released 2 looper pedals under the, I guess, brand Sheeran Loopers. We have the Sheeran Looper Plus and the Sheeran Looper X. Also, no, this is not my real zip code. So if you don't know who Ed Sheeran is, he's a pop musician that's gotten super, super popular. And the way that he started, and I think he still does it live, is he uses a big loop pedal. And basically the whole show is live looping whenever he plays live. Super cool. The music's not really my thing. I got to go see him back in 2017. Lady Freebeat and I went. That was way before we were even dating. And yeah, it was a really good show. Like I said, the music's not for me, but watching him manipulate this looper pedal live was really, really neat. And I was pretty impressed. Now, some of you may know I've been working on a live rig for the past 6 months or so, and I think I've mentioned it on camera, but I've been toying with the idea of a looper pedal for that rig for a while. I'd looked at things like the Boss RC600 here, and while it does seem like a good product, I don't enjoy these switches at all, and I did have some concerns like switching between different loops, like essentially just, starting a new song over. I didn't want to have to bend over and do anything with these controls over here or this big knob at all. And I did have some other concerns as well, so I kind of just set that whole thing aside. And actually, in fact, during that research process, I came across this picture of Ed Sheeran using his looper pedal, and I was like, man, that's exactly what I want. Something with big-ass pedals and a nice big screen so I can actually see what's going on. You can see this looks like a level indicator for the different tracks, and then this looks like a waveform view, so really cool. And lo and behold, here we go. So of course there's 2 different models here. There's the Sheeran Loopers Looper Plus, which goes for $299 US, and it is a 2-track, 2-pedal looper. It looks pretty cool. I'm not super interested in it just because I'm after some more complex and a little more advanced features than what this offers. But from what I've seen, it slots into the less than $500 looper market pretty well. So if you're interested in a looper, definitely give it a shot. You can always put some tape over the Sheeran name if you don't want it on there, I suppose. But $299 seems to be a pretty decent price point for this thing. But then we move to the big one, the Sheeran Loopers Looper X, and look at that price tag, $1,299 US. Now, I wouldn't blame you for assuming that the majority of that price is due to just the name Ed Sheeran being attached to it. But upon further inspection, that really does not seem to be the case. And speaking of case, let's start there. This thing is huge. It's over 20 inches wide, and it weighs over 16 pounds. Everything is metal. So we've got automotive grade aluminum, they say here, for the pedals, and then steel for the case. Yeah, this thing is heavy, and it appears to be built like a tank. One phrase that I keep seeing pop up in the promotional material for this thing is stadium grade, and I've actually seen tour worthy and stage grade thrown around a couple times as well. At first you might think that that's just kind of, marketing gibberish, but this thing weighs 16 pounds and the pedals are huge. That leads me to believe that this really is targeted at a touring or at least heavily gigging audience. The price point certainly lends itself to that belief as well. Now, I actually do have one of these on its way to me right now, courtesy of Sounds.com. Very excited to get my hands on it and give it a try. I will be doing more content on it in the future. But the main thing I want to tackle first is the build quality and the durability. Because if they're going to throw around words like stage quality, stadium grade, I'd expect this thing to be pretty damn beefy. So that will be one of the first things I take a look at. Now, I have seen some people complain about the sheer size of it. Why is it so big? Why are the pedals so big? It's just a looper. Well, if you've ever played in a live setting with any kind of instrument that requires pretty precise timing and a consistent and accurate press, especially with a foot, then you'll know why these pedals are so big and so spaced out, and why this board in general is so big. There is zero margin for error when you're playing live, especially with timing-based products. You know, you simply just have to hit the right pedal or the right switch at the exact right time. And the bigger they can be, the more space there is between them, the better. I mean, look at Ed Sheeran's custom pedal board here. Look how big these pedals are and how spaced apart they are. In fact, I'd say these pedals are very similar to the ones on the Looper X. That's pretty cool. We can also see this nice big 7-inch touchscreen here, which is very cool. There's a track view and a waveform view. So his pedal board has two screens, waveform view and a track view at once. Looks like you'll have to toggle between the two of them on the Looper X, but I think that's okay. So here's the official website, and I'm going to take this time to say that really anything stage grade of this size for less than $2,000, regardless of the product, is typically, at least in the world of like touring musicians, it's typically a pretty good value. You have no idea how expensive live audio stuff can get once you start to get into the, you know, the actual more professional gear. Let's take a quick scroll of the website here. There he is, rocking out with an acoustic guitar. The most advanced standalone looper. I mean, you know how these websites always are. Let's find some actual information here. Stadium grade hardware. There we go. Looper X features Ed's Stadium Stage signature foot pedals with titanium gray satin finish. So these pedals are either identical or very similar to the ones in that picture we looked at of him. That's pretty cool. If we look down here, we can see that it also has a multi-effects engine. So 9 multi-effects racks, 26 effects options, compression, EQ, and even vocal effects, which is really nice. And all of these effects are from Headrush. So Headrush makes pretty cool guitar multi-effects pedals and things like that. And their stuff sounds really nice. So that's encouraging. I think he's worked with Headrush in the past. I'm not entirely sure. I knew nothing really about Ed Sheeran until yesterday when I did some research to make this video. Scrolling down a little more here, we can see the I/O. So we have 4 inputs here. These are XLR/1/4-inch combo jacks. Very nice. We have an auxiliary in. Okay, then for outputs, we have a headphone jack, and then we have 4 individual outputs, 2 1/4-inch and 2 XLR. And if you watch the Andertons overview video on this, they do like a 40-minute overview and read the manual, which I suggest doing too. Then you'll see that the routing between these 4 inputs and 4 outputs is very flexible. You can basically do whatever you want, route anything, anywhere. Very, very cool. And of course, really necessary for a professional stadium grade piece of gear. And, especially at this price point as well. Moving on, we have an input for an expression pedal. More on that. And then we also have 5-pin MIDI in and out. Love to see it. SD card slot for expanding your storage. I believe this has 5.1 gigabytes internally. It's like 7 hours of audio, something like that you can store without needing an SD card. 2 USB ports. We've got USB Type B full size. That's going to allow this thing to act as a 4-in, 4-out audio interface for your computer. And then USB Type A for file transfer, as well as you can plug in a class-compliant MIDI controller into it and use it that way. So that's really cool. Okay, if we come down here, we can see the proper dimensions. So it's not quite 2 feet wide. 21.72 inches. That's going to be 55.17 centimeters. So pretty good size, but it is over 16 pounds. That's crazy. Let's look at the looping specs here. Under looping modes, we have 5. We have multi-song, sync, band, and free. I'm not going to get super in-depth on this stuff because that'll all come in a video later. Looping functions: record, overdub, play, stop, undo, clear track, clear all, reverse, fade in and out. Fade out is a big one. That's going to allow you to fade out tracks while you are like overdubbing over them, which is really cool. Mute, solo, peel. More on that in just a second. Bounce, multiply, divide length, multiply, divide speed, and transpose. For looper tracks, I think I may have just found a typo here on the website. Max number of looper tracks down here is not unlimited. It's supposed to say 4, and the max loop length is supposed to say unlimited. So that's right, you can have unlimited loop length, even though the website doesn't say so. If you watch any of the demonstrations out there, they clearly show that you can have an unlimited length to your loops, which is really, really cool. Now if we come down here to max overdub layers per loop, 99 peelable layers. And what that means is you can overdub on a loop up to 99 times. And that's where that peel function comes in, the one we saw right here. So if you overdub something and you don't like it, you can simply just hold down that pedal again and peel that layer off, if you will. Really neat. Here we go. Max overdub time, unlimited. Yeah, that's to be expected. Max number of stored loops, unlimited. Onboard storage time, over 7 hours, 5.1 gigabytes, and unlimited external storage time. And that's all we're going to look at in terms of the specs here on the site. Now what I want to do is pull up the manual, because this is where this pedal board gets pretty crazy, I think. And I'll link this manual in the description as well. But what I want to do is come down here to the MIDI implementation chart. Sorry, I guess they call it external MIDI control. It's the MIDI implementation chart. So here we have a whole bunch of parameters that can be controlled via MIDI CC. So this would be with an external controller, right? You can assign any of these to any of your knobs, which is really cool. The main volume level and the headphones level are both mappable to CC. You typically only see that on higher end stage grade gear, so that's cool. Individual track volume for 1, 2, 3, 4, panning, yep, per track, backing track volume, and backing track pan. So this thing also has a backing track player. You can load in backing tracks, hit a pedal, and they will play. The manual says you can't play backing tracks while you're looping. More on that in just a minute. Let's see, we've also got click track volume and click track pan, and yes, that's part of the audio routing, so you can put that in just your headphones. We've also got separate volumes for your outputs, so 1, 2, 3, 4 there. Those are different than the track volumes themselves, because remember, tracks can be routed to different outputs, so very, very flexible. You've also got panning for your inputs. Remember I said you can plug in an expression pedal and assign something to that, I believe up to 4 effects parameters, and then control those with the pedal. Well, you can also assign the expression pedal value to a CC and control that with a CC knob. So I don't believe you even need a pedal to use those features if you have an external MIDI controller. This is a big one. Fade rate. That's going to be the rate of which your tracks fade when you're doing the overdubbing or re-recording. Really, really powerful to have control of that just on the fly with a MIDI knob. Then we have our track, our individual track decays here. And now we move down to individual functions of the Sheeran Looper X and how those are mapped to MIDI. So looking at the pedal board here, we of course have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 pedals. But if we go to the manual, we see we've got a ton of different parameters here. That means that without MIDI, to access a lot of these, you're probably going to be toggling through the mode button a bunch of times, the function button. It's probably going to be, you know, some pretty fancy footwork sometimes to get to where you need to go without bending down and using the touch screen. And that's not very engaging for an audience. So I plan on plugging in something like my Novation Launch Control XL, or maybe like an Akai MPD 118, to assign those pads and knobs to a bunch of MIDI commands. This is also a really great way to just see what this pedal board is capable of. So via MIDI, we can toggle effects 1, 2, 3, or 4 on or off, just like that. Of course, there's a master start/stop/all as well that can be assigned. You can assign tap tempo to MIDI. You can assign all tracks half length, double length, half speed, double speed to MIDI. You can have mutes for your tracks individually, so 1, 2, 3, or 4, or mute all tracks, all of that mapped to MIDI. I would really hope that seems pretty standard. Clear all tracks. You can have that mapped to MIDI. If we come over here, you can have individual track clears, 1, 2, 3, 4, mapped to MIDI. You can have track reverses for 1, 2, 3, 4, or all mapped to MIDI. You can have your track fades mapped to MIDI. That one's huge. 1, 2, 3, 4, or all of them. Then we have our transpose stuff. So track 1, half step up. Track 2, track 3, track 4, half step up or half step down individually, all mapped to MIDI, or all tracks half step up or half step down mapped to MIDI. We already went over the tracks 1, 2, 3, and 4 clear. You can also have your peels mapped to MIDI. So that's, again, you overdub, you don't like it, hold down a pedal, or just pop a pad mapped to one of these note numbers, and I'm assuming it just peels it right off. That is so cool and so handy. Now we get down to the backing track section. As you can see, these are all also mappable via MIDI. We've got backing track rewind, backing track stop, backing track play/pause, backing track fast forward, and then backing track previous and backing track next track. Now again, the manual says that you can't use the backing track player while you're looping, but I don't know if that also translates to MIDI, because if I'm in the middle of looping on the pedal and then I press an external a MIDI controller to start the backing track, what's going to happen? Is it going to start? Is it going to like switch modes? I don't know. That's one thing I'm going to have to figure out once I get the pedal. However, I will say the option to go back and to the next track via MIDI is very, very cool. You'll be able to, you know, depending on how you integrate backing tracks into your set, just basically make like a set list and then just churn through those via MIDI. Super nice. We're going to skip these next two for now because I believe, in my opinion, at least for my workflow, they're the most important. And we're going to come down here. We've got solos for all 4 of our tracks. That's to be expected. And then the last 8 here, if I'm understanding this right, are just straight up mapped to these 8 pedals and will perform the function of those pedals no matter what's going on, you know, where we are on the screen. Which that's a pretty cool feature. I'm not really seeing that on any other looper pedals out there. So really, really nice. And then returning to these two here, load previous loop and load next loop. One of my biggest concerns when I was originally looking at the RC600 was that I didn't know how I was going to get to the next loop or the next song, essentially. I didn't want to have to bend down and do anything with the dials or the knobs or anything like that. I just couldn't find a way, really, and I may have been misreading it, but I couldn't find a way to get to the next section of my song or next song in my set. And with these two functions here, it's spelled out pretty clearly. If I have a pad on a MIDI controller assigned to these 2 note numbers, I can simply hit that pad and the next loop will load. I don't really think there's any other way to interpret that. That's just what that's going to do, and that is huge for me personally. So there you have it. I'm quite excited for the Sheeran Looper X. Mine should be here in just a couple days. Thanks again to Zounds.com for hooking me up with that. I will probably post my very, very quick initial thoughts on it over on the Freebeat Patreon page, and all patrons will get access to that, even at just $1 a month. You'll also get access to the patron-only Discord server, where I'm sure I'll also be posting constant updates and bugging the hell out of everybody with how excited I am for this looper. And then I'll probably wait a couple weeks before dropping a video. I might drop one next week, but I'll probably wait a couple weeks before dropping one here on the main channel. You know, I want to get to know it and get some good footage of me using it and figure out my likes and dislikes. Anyway, I do hope you found this video informative, entertaining. Who knows, really? If you did, though, if you found it either of those things, be sure to leave a like on it. If not, you can always leave a dislike. That's okay, too. Yeah, thanks so much for being here, everybody. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. Bye.